Whenever you are, Mr. Chair.
Okay. All right. Meeting is called to order. This is a public hearing of the Bonner County Zoning Commission. The time is 5:30. The date is April 17th, 2025. The location is the first floor conference room of the Bonner County Administration Building, Highway 2, Sandpoint, Idaho, United States, Earth, third rock from the sun. The meeting is being recorded and streamed live via Zoom and YouTube. This episode is brought to you by DeLorean Motor Company. Stop by one of our dealers and feel the thrill of 0 to 60 in 8.8 seconds in a new stainless steel DMC DeLorean. If you like what you see here, please click the like button. If you don't want to miss future episodes, be sure to subscribe and ring that bell. Please silence your pagers, digital watch alarms, personal digital assistants, and any other electronic devices. We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. We'll have roll call for commissioners, starting from my left, please.
Commissioner Polson, present.
Commissioner Marble is a chair present.
Commissioner Clark, present.
3 of 5 is a quorum. Is there anyone in attendance who cannot hear me well enough? Okay. Commissioners and staff members, are there any changes to the agenda? Now, I don't have an agenda, but I'm assuming it's the usual agenda. We have one file, right?
Yes.
Okay.
In your drive.
Oh, thanks. Okay. So with no changes to the agenda, we'll proceed. The minutes for our last meeting held March 3rd have not been reviewed. Oh, no. We'll look at those next month.
Yeah.
I'm sure there were.
Yeah.
Oh, there weren't any. My problem. So we have an agenda in minutes now. We'll review the minutes. We will approve the minutes next month. For those of you who may not be familiar with these public hearings, I'll introduce the process. The gentleman on my left and right and I are county zoning commissioners. We're volunteers. We serve on the commission because we live in Bonner County, work in Bonner County. We have friends and family here, and because we love Bonner County. Our job is to objectively review zoning and land use applications. We're not employees of the county. We're not politically elected, and we are not paid for the service. We review these applications as best we can with support from the professionals in the Bonner County Planning Department and with other county and state agencies. The zoning commission are a quasi-judicial body, meaning we don't make rules, we follow the rules. This is in contrast to the planning commission, which is a separate group of people who are quasi-legislative, meaning that they make many of the rules that we follow here. Staff are the folks on my left, members of the county planning department. Staff members are employees of the county, subject matter experts in the areas of zoning, planning, permitting. They spend countless hours helping professionals and DIYers properly plan projects affecting land use. They act as filters, ensuring that what comes before this commission is well prepared. Indeed, there are many applications requests that never make it to these public hearings because the proposals are simply incompatible with county code or because they can be handled by staff. The public are also present tonight. The commission solicits public testimony that helps the commission to learn about facts relevant to these files, facts that may not have been known to the applicant, their representative, or planning department staff. We accept public testimony in written form before these hearings, and we appreciate written testimony because we have more time to review those before these hearings. We have just one file to review tonight. It's a zone change application. First, we'll hear from staff, rostrum on my left, your right. The applicant and or their representative presents an overview of the project from the rostrum. The commission may ask questions of staff and the applicant normally at the end of the presentations. The commission opens the hearing for public testimony. I'll explain the rules of public testimony if needed at that time. After that, the applicants and staff will have an opportunity to rebut any new information that was presented in public testimony. And finally, the commission will close the hearing to public testimony, deliberate, and hopefully vote. So first file. ZC 125, the first zone change of 2025. The applicant is requesting a zone change from rural 10 to rural 5, just one parcel. The project name is Cropper Zone Change. Does one moment. Does any commissioner have ex parte communication or conflict of interest to disclose regarding this application?
No.
Negative. Okay, staff, your turn.
Dave Fisher, Monroe County Planning. This is file ZC 125, zone change from rural 10 to rural 5 for Cropper. Project summary, the applicants are requesting a zone change from rural 10 to rural 5 on one parcel approximately 10 acres. Project is located off Helen Thompson Road in section 5, township 56 north, range 3 west, Boise Meridian. Comprehensive plan designation is rural residential 5 to 10 acres. This request was evaluated against the standards for rural 10 and rural 5. The listed Bonner County codes this was revised against. Background on this parcel, use is residential, unplatted, approximately 10 acres, zone rural 10, land use rural residential 5-10 acres. Access again from Helen Thompson Road, Bonner County owned and maintained public right of way. The environmental factors include map slopes of 0 to 30%. Site contains mapped wetlands. Site contains frontage on Trickle Creek, an intermittent stream. Parcels within special flood hazard area zone X. The site has ponderay silt loam, 5 to 45% slopes. Soil type is consociation, well drained, and classifies as not prime farmland. Services include individual well, individual septic system, West Side Fire District, Northern Lights, and Lake Ponderay School District number 84. Following agencies replied no comment. Department of Environmental Quality, Idaho Transportation Department, Idaho Fish and Game, Kootenai Ponderay Sewer District, Panhandle Health, and the USDA Forest Service. All other agencies did not reply. No public comments were received. Zoning designation rural 10, areas designated as rural residential in the comprehensive plan that meet one or more of the following criteria. Characterized by slopes that are steeper than 30%, located within critical wildlife habitat, served by a network of public and or private roadways that generally do not meet applicable roadway standards set forth in Title II of this code or Appendix A, within the floodway and contain limited access to public services. Zoning designation for rural 5, areas designated rural residential in the comprehensive plan that are already developed at or near the one dwelling unit per 5 acre density and or do not meet the criteria for R10 above. Standards for review, comprehensive plan designations, rural residential, characterized by slopes 30% or greater, critical wildlife habitat, prime agricultural soils, served by a network of public and or private roads, within the floodway, limited access public services. Standards for rural 5, Comp plan designation rural residential, developed at or near the one dwelling unit per 5 acres. And does not meet the criteria for R10. For rural 10, characterized by slopes steeper than 30%. The parcel does contain slopes steeper than 30%. The parcel has mostly areas of 0 to 29.9%, with steeper sloping along the intermittent stream, dividing the property from north to south. According to the land use portion of the comprehensive plan for density ranges, properties that are level to moderately sloped or appropriately sized to be 5 to 10 acres. No critical wildlife area was determined by any agency. Rural 10 contains prime agriculture soils. This parcel contains one type of soil, ponderay silt loam, 5 to 45% slopes. According to a natural resource component of the Bonner County Comprehensive Plan, ponderay silt loam is considered not prime farmland. Not prime farmland is defined as all other soil types not classified as prime farmland or farmland of statewide importance are classified as not prime farmland. For the natural resources component of the Bonner County Comprehensive Plan, the rural residential land use designation in the rural zoning district encourages agricultural pursuits. Agricultural pursuits are still viable with not prime farmland soils. The type of crops grown may be limited. There's a map showing the soils, single soil. Rural 10, served by a network of public and or private roadways that generally do not meet applicable roadway standards. Access to the parcels by a combination of Bonner County owned and maintained roads and state of Idaho owned and maintained roads. Helen Thompson Road via Rinco Loop via Highway 2. Both Bonner County Road and Bridge and Idaho Transportation Department did not provide comment on the zone change. Within the floodway, the risk of flooding of the parcel is minimal as the parcel is not within a map floodplain or floodway or FEMA firm panel listed. Contain limited access to public services. The parcel has access to public services. Public services that are available for this property include fire protection from Westside Fire, emergency services from Bonner County Sheriff and Bonner County EMS, and power from Northern Lights. Other amenities are private well and individual septic. For rural 5, developed at or near the one dwelling unit per 5 acres. It appears most surrounding properties in the immediate area are developed at 10 acres, 10 plus acres. There are 7 parcels within 2,000 feet of this project that are developed with one dwelling unit per 5 acres or are below 10 acres. That does not meet the criteria for R10. The property does not appear to be characterized by steep slopes of 30% plus or greater. It does not have any identified critical wildlife habitat. It is not within a map floodway. It does have access to public services. It is served by a network of private and public roads, and it does not contain soil classified as prime farmland. Here's a map showing the 7 parcels that are already below 10 acres within the 2,000 feet. 2,000 feet was the maximum that GIS allowed me to go. Obviously on the south end there, quite a few more.
Well, those are the number ones. The ones with numbers on them are the ones that are.
Yeah,
We're
sorry.
drawing attention to. Got it.
And that was it.
Commissioners, we have any questions for staff?
Yeah, I do. Any more information on the intermittency of that stream that moves through that property? Should I ask the applicant?
It's intermittent, that's all I have.
Anything else? All right. Thank you. Forget your name. Dave. Dave. Thank you, Dave. Looks like Travis's representative tonight. Welcome back, Travis.
Thank you. Travis Heiler. Here representing the owners. All right, let's jump into it. There we go. So site location, so we are from Sandpoint, we do go west and towards Priest River. There's Renko Loop. If you're familiar with that, but then off Renko Loop is Helen Thompson Road, and that star on the left map is exactly where we're at. So it gives you a ballpark idea. On the right hand side, you can see all the parcels, and then highlighted in the blue, kind of the same scale. So the comp plan land use designation, that governs everything, right? And so it's rural residential, and rural residential allows for the R10 zoning district and the R5. So we're within the comp plan. So the question now is, do we meet the R10 criteria or the R5 criteria? And if we meet both, well, which one does it best, is it best suited with? So the zoning in the area, we can see here, the dark blue is currently what we are. Highlighted there is R10. And you can see there is R5. It's obviously, it looks like it's closer to the river. That makes sense. That's normally where parcels are normally smaller. And then you can see the light green there, that's the Ag Forest 10. It's usually where slopes are greater than 30% or characterized by 30% and larger tracts of land. So it gives you a general idea there. So the surrounding parcels I stole from the staff report. Thank you, Dave. So he did mention there are 7 parcels below 10 acres in the area. That is the 1 through 7 that are highlighted there. But that also means that there's other parcels that are 10 acres or above, and that number is 18. And so that's those 25 parcels are the ones that are within the 2,000 radius. So transportation, thing to point out here, David did a great job. Highway 2 is highway, obviously, Idaho Transportation Department owned and maintained. And then off of that is Renko Loop. And then that's how you get to Helen Thompson Road, and the driveway is off of Helen Thompson. Their address is a Helen Thompson Road address. So all those are publicly owned and maintained. So that's kind of a key factor here. So before I get into the zoning, I just want to specify, we saw it in the site plan there, the reason for this zoning. I know that some planners like to hit on the fact that we're only here for the zone change, but we do know that the zone changes is for a reason, right? And even though it shouldn't play a role in the decision, I think in this case, it's safe to say that it's important to bring it up. And so as that site plan at the beginning showed, the current subject parcel is 10 acres, and they want to change the zoning to R5 in order to split it, really get a second family residence on there. Reason being is because the owners are here of the 10 acres, mom and dad. And then we have the son, Joel, and his wife, Kylie, and their baby. And so the idea is that 5 acres would then go to the son, Joel. And so Joel and his brother, 2 sons, born and raised on that property. And so it makes a lot of sense to give to family. And so further down the road, there's the minor land division process, the family exemption as well. And so that would be the next avenue. But just so there's the idea behind this whole zone change, I think is important for the commission to know and be aware of. So if we get into the R10 zoning, we talked about, well, which one does it better meet? Since the comp plan says it's rural residential, which one's better? R10 in the code 12-323, it talks about those 6 criteria. Are 10 in areas designated as rural residential in the comp plan, which it is, that meet one or more of the following criteria. So there's 6 criteria there, A through F. And we can briefly go through them, but if we take those 6 criteria and we put them into a nice little chart. I like this chart idea. I'm a visual learner. And so like A, for instance, characterized by slopes that are steeper than 30%, right there, characterized by slopes 30%. And we can go down those six criteria: critical wildlife habitat, prime ag soils, roads generally don't meet standards, within floodway, limited access to public services. We look at R5, the code, and the same 12-323B2 specifies the R5 in areas designated rural residential in the comp plan. Again, we know that are already developed at or near the 1 dwelling per 5 area density. Dave obviously spoke to that, and or do not meet the criteria for R10. And we do the same thing for R5. And then we kind of go through. We take those conditions, the criteria that the code outlines, and then we look at the site conditions. And so we got the comprehensive plan designation, rural residential, check. Site is 10 acres in size and currently has 1 residential structure with private services, water and septic. Site is not characterized by slopes steeper than 30%. No critical wildlife area was determined by any agency. The parcel contains a silt loam, and that is designated as not prime, so it doesn't meet prime ag soils. Access by Helen Thompson Road, directly off of Renko Loop, and then via Highway 2, all publicly owned and maintained roads, and guarantee you those all meet standards. Not within a map floodplain or floodway. Again, we keep checking not meeting the R10. And then we talk about limited access to public services. And as staff, Dave pointed out, we do have access. We have Westside Fire, Bonner County Sheriff, Northern Lights for power. And so, then we look at the R5, located in areas where there are viable parcel sizes. We talked about this at the very beginning. 7 parcels are below the 10 acres, but we have 18 that are 10 acres or above. And so when I compare 7 and 18, it's to me, it's not characterized. So it still doesn't meet that. Really, it comes down to this last one. It doesn't meet the R10 criteria. Really, if we look at all the criteria for either R5 or R10, there's really only one that it actually meets, and that's that it doesn't meet the R10. There at the very end, I'll go back one. No agencies responded or saying how it would impact the services. And the list is in that staff report as well. There's over, I think, 50 agencies that are contacted. Some additional key items to note, the creek and any wetland on site will be mapped with appropriate buffers applied at the time of platting, because this will take a plat of some sort or a record of survey if they decide to go the family exemption route. The owner will follow all Panhandle Health District requirements. I know PhD has been a sticking point in the past with zone changes because the question has always come up, well, can the land actually accommodate the additional private wells, septic, that kind of stuff. Topographic mapping and building site will be determined at the time of building location permit and meet all requirements. The site plan is the best idea we have at the time, but again, that's at building location permit time. And then third residence off of the driveway will require a road name for safety purposes. So again, this is kind of the next step in kind of just showing that the commission that we have thought about not only this, but what the next steps are entail. And we're aware of them and willing to jump through any hoops. And so at the end, based on Bonner County Revised Code, this parcel does not meet the R10 criteria. And therefore, according to Bonner County Revised Code, R5 is appropriate. I'll take any questions if the commission has.
We already answered my question about the stream. Yeah, I'm happy with it.
Thanks for the visual. Appreciate that.
Well, you're welcome.
Okay. Thanks, Travis.
I think You want to, or do you want to?
I mean, if you think.
I don't think it's necessary at this junction, but if you want. Yeah, you just want to do it next time?
Sure.
Okay.
What do you think that actually is?
We did have another question too. Go ahead. Yeah, somebody else is gonna.
You stay here, you may move up there, either one's.
That's an easier one.
This one's easier. Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Whatever suits your purpose. Some people like that or grab on you.
Alright. Hello, my name is Joel Cropper, and I'm speaking on behalf of my wife Kylie and our young daughters Clementine and Lucy. We stand in front of you today asking to rule in favor of this zone change. At this point in our lives, the opportunity my parents have offered us may be our only chance to own a home in Sandpoint. We ask that you allow them to give us this gift. Kylie and I were both raised in Sandpoint. Her grandparents were born and raised in Clark Fork and in Sandpoint. We both started working in service industries as teenagers. Kylie dipped ice cream cones at Dubs, then worked every restaurant job from washing dishes to managing spuds into her 20s. In 7th grade, I started mowing lawns for the man that took over my parents' landscaping business. I worked for him every summer until graduating from college, after graduating college. We have spent the majority of our lives here, and to be honest, we took it for granted for many of those years. After leaving Sandpoint and getting a taste of city life, we returned home. We realized how special Sandpoint is and wanted to build our lives in this incredible place. Since returning to Sandpoint, we have accomplished several dreams. In 2014, I bought Bonner Taxi and served our community for 8 years. In 2018, Kylie pursued her dream and started Cropper & Co. Barbershop. In 2022, we sold the taxi business, and I joined Kylie and our team at our family-owned barbershop. We are proud owners and operators of a downtown Sandpoint business that serves hundreds of people, awarding us Best Barbershop in Sandpoint for many years in a row. We're proud of our accomplishments. We've been successful in our business endeavors while creating a beautiful family. But there's one dream we haven't been able to reach. We don't have a home to call our own. Being young adults and floundering at the beginning of small business ownership, we weren't able to secure financing back in the years of reasonable house prices. We spent a lot of time dotting I's and crossing T's in order to better position ourselves to buy a home. But no matter how hard we've tried, the prices remain just beyond our reach. I'm sure if we continue to grind and sacrifice, one day we could make that dream come true. But since having our children, this dream has become much more than just owning a home. Our dream now is to have more time to spend with our family and appreciate the life we've built. My parents have offered us a piece of their property, so we may do exactly that. They're offering us this land they worked so hard for so that we can afford to build a modest home and continue the life we've built in Sandpoint. Along with giving us the security of owning a home to raise our girls, we will be able to support my parents as they age. They'll be able to stay in their beautiful home for which they've sacrificed so much for many more years. We'll be able to show our girls the importance of hard work and perseverance, but also the importance of family, community, and supporting one another in the various seasons of life. My parents giving us this land will be the greatest gift I could have ever imagined. I ask that you vote in favor so that we may continue to build and support our family and serve our community and our hometown we love so much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I did have one question about, there were some supporting materials submitted. There was 6 comments of support for the zone change. And at least 5 of them are near the parcel. We're on the same road as this parcel on. Is the 5th from someone nearby or in town or?
They all have lived or are living on the road. Yes.
All right, thank you. Yeah. I just wanted to note that.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
In our
Yes,
packet, there's
and the
some
5th
support.
one is a road off of Helen Thompson.
Oh, it is, okay,
So
yeah, I didn't have time to check.
There's the
I do
connection.
have the ability to check,
Yeah.
but I didn't check. Thanks.
I didn't see any public comment.
In the application, there's There's a folder called supporting materials and there's these support, notes. Yeah, there you go. You got it on that. Which we appreciate written comments.
All right, the chair opens the hearing of public testimony. Before this hearing. We didn't see any written comments other than the ones that were just mentioned. We support the zone change for the Cropper family at 1040 on Thompson Road. Very nice. We have anyone online tonight?
We have one person online.
Do they have their hand up?
Nope.
I didn't see a sign up sheet. No sign up sheet, okay. Anyone care to share public testimony at this time? All right, the chair closes the hearing to public testimony. I think we can forego rebuttal. File is fairly simple and there needs to be uncharacteristically little controversy on this one. So the commissioners now deliberate the file. Commissioners deliberate. To me, this is an extremely simple file. The only concern that I had when I was reviewing it earlier was that it's surrounded by the rural 10. However, convinced after presentations that it's those pockets that's not really zoned properly.
Yeah, it looks like it's kind of the transition between more steeper areas and flatter areas. Well, we should have done 5 at the start, but history, it all tends to start with 4 for the zone comp plan that one or something.
Fix half the parking in this county.
Yeah, true.
Director,
If I may,
you may.
Jacob L, Planning Director. So one thing I would request from the commission as you're deliberating on this file is look at those standards for review. You have a interpretation of those and some details found in the staff report. But in hearings on these types of files with the board, I think one thing to help the board understand, because you guys are making a recommendation to them, they're making a final decision, is your interpretation of each of those code provisions, specifically that characterized by steep slopes, like 30% or more. So I've seen the board go against the zoning commission's recommendation. So I think if you can elaborate as to how you define or interpret characterized by steep slopes, it would help carry some weight to the board on either direction of the zoning commission. So not to try to make the meeting last any longer, but I think it would help the board at least understand your guys' thought process, and that we can add that as findings of fact.
I was thinking about every time we have a with any slope and the term characterized by comes up, because I think to myself, yes, there are some parts of this job that are subjective. So there are some slopes greater than 30%, which represented to us that at least some of that has to do with the Mermaid Creek. Is it characterized by?
Seems to be quite a relatively small portion of the property that's sloped to that degree.
Yeah, that's kind of where I go about characterize what is it predominantly. Feature you can see now we're just looking at a LiDAR map or not being at the site itself, but you take that a lot of that area, a lot of that property, especially on the west side of that property, less than 30%, almost all.
So I think of the words characterized as being, you walk around this place. do you say to yourself, oh, this is a piece of property on the side of a hill? Or you say to yourself, well, there's a nice creek that goes down the middle of it. And to me, it looks like there's a nice creek that goes out the middle of it, not, this is a parcel on the side of a hill. If you look around the surrounding area, like Commissioner's got up on his computer here, you can see a lot of other property, a lot of other areas that are obviously on the side of a hill. They're characterized by slopes because property is built on, the property is on a slope. And I don't see that. I see that it's in this 10-acre parcel.
Yeah, is there something you might want to say that's a little more definitive in the finding of fact? In finding of the graph finding of fact, that's the parcel does contain some map slopes that range from 15 to 20% grade, and some slopes that are 3% or greater. Maybe you want to say something a little more definitive there. Relative to what the code wants, what the code is asking. That's just a suggestion. I'm not really on that.
Would that convey sort of what you're looking for, Director?
I think the chair mentioned this, is that it's a bit subjective as to what characterized is. So some previous decisions have been inclusive of not more than the majority of the property is characterized by steep slopes. I had a gentleman once at one of these meetings say, well, if I lost my arm, I'd be characterized as a guy with one arm, but I still have 3/4 of my limbs. So you can have these different arguments as what is characterized by, right? So it's somewhat subjective. So I would just say deliberate on what you would consider the characterization of this property. I think the chair mentioned that a little bit, as to it doesn't appear to be a very slopey property. It's not on a hillside. It has some slope within it, but it's not the characterization of it. I wouldn't walk through this property and consider it to be, a hilly property or something along those lines. So you can use some numerical values, like the majority of not more than 51% is characterized or contains steep slopes or something along those lines as well. So I'm trying to give you guys both sides of this from different angles that I've heard. So
like I'm a person that's made some bad decisions in my life. That doesn't make me a bad person.
sure.
Yeah, like one way to say that it's characterized by is to say that the more than 50%. Yeah, it's probably a property that's 50%, 30%. If half a property has 30% or greater slopes, then yeah, it's probably characterized by those slopes.
Yeah.
That certainly is not the case here.
Yeah, that is not the case here. Dead reckoning, looking at the LiDAR layer.
But looking at the patterns of the slopes on this parcel, I don't look at this parcel and say, oh, that's a parcel on a slope. I say, oh, that's a parcel and it has some slopes in it because there's a creek that goes through it. So I can have to write there's
Yeah,
a
it's
drop.
what you see around all water courses on the LiDAR.
But I think you're right, Commissioner, that that finding of fact number one doesn't really say anything that a person can't just objectively say.
I mean, the sum part is the part I don't find factual.
Yeah.
Some is almost, we're talking about characterization.
So I think we could add there that the parcel is not characterized by slopes greater than 30%.
Right, I would agree. That's probably the most correct way to put it.
And if I understand you guys correctly, what you're stating then is that because the majority of the property, more than half, does not contain slopes of greater than 30%, and therefore is not characterized by.
kind of saying something different, but that worked as well. for me,
Okay.
yes.
But
That's
you
in
kind
addition
of
to
bounce around
that.
some ideas, so.
It's just not,
It's not
it's
characterized.
not a piece of property you think of as,
It's not on a slope.
yeah. Right. It's a, this definition says 30%.
It's characterized by a river running through it, which is a very good movie.
But yeah, you could say the majority of this property is not. 30%.
Yeah.
That. Therefore, it's characterized. Not
Say the property is characterized by the creek that runs through it intermittently.
good.
There we go. That's
That-
how it's
Well,
characterized.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah. Maybe both, try to cover all
Yeah,
the
that's
objections.
fine. We can add several findings to help with this deliberation. What you find in the staff report are just factual things
Sure.
that the staff
Well,
finds when reviewing the project.
Yeah.
What we are not gonna do is give you the interpretation because it's been so
Sure.
broad as to what you consider characterized by steep slopes. That's why I brought this up as a talking point, because I've seen the board in a unanimous recommendation from the zoning commission completely overturn and deny a zone change. And so I thought I'd give you some feedback to help you guys at least deliberate, and so we can add additional findings and the board can see, okay, they are considering this and this is how they're interpreting that. And we may differ in that interpretation, but we at least have some ideas to what the zoning commission says, right?
Yeah, I wasn't faulting staff for what's in here. It's just, I think, when we make this ours, we should bolster that one finding back. The rest of them. seem fine.
So after the period and the first finding of fact, we could say. The parcel is not characterized by slopes greater than 30%, semicolon. Indeed, it is characterized by. An intermittent creek
Sure.
passing. Betwixt the two cheeks.
That suits my view of it, yeah.
Betwixt.
You want me to add between?
And the semicolon.
I'll send the decision letter for your review before I
Thank you.
send it to the board.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, the rest of them look fine. Yeah. Right.
It's right next to Helen Thompson Road. Just, yeah. So, this is my file for sure. Okay, anything else you guys want to talk about?
I've been in this area, I've not been down that particular road. Definitely not characterized by steepness.
Would any commissioner care to make a motion to approve, deny, or continue this file?
Sure, Commissioner Clark, I'll make a motion. I move to recommend approval of this project to the Board of County Commissioners, file GC 0001-25, requesting a zone change from rural 10 to rural 5. Finding that it is not in conflict with the policies of the Bonner County Comprehensive Plan and Bonner County Revised Code is enumerated in the following conclusions of law. Conclusion 1, the proposal is not in conflict with the policies of the Bonner County Comprehensive Plan. Conclusion 2, the proposal was reviewed for compliance with Title 12, Bonner County Revised Code, and was found to be in compliance. Conclusion 3, the proposal is in accordance with the purpose of the Rural 5 zoning district provided at Chapter 3, Title 12, Bonner County Revised Code. This decision is based upon evidence submitted up to the time of the staff report prepared, given our one amendment, finding fact, and testimony received at this hearing. I further move to adopt the findings of fact as amended and conclusions of law set forth in the staff report, and direct planning staff to draft written findings and conclusions to reflect this motion. Have the chairman sign and transmit to all interested parties. This action does not result in the taking of private property, Mr. Chair.
We have a motion. Does any commissioner care to discuss or second the motion?
Commissioner Paulson, I'll second.
All right, we've got a second. Does any commissioner care to discuss the motion and second before we vote? We should not vote from my left.
Commissioner Paulson, aye.
Commissioner Marvel, aye.
Commissioner Clark, aye.
Motion carries with 3 voting in favor, none voting against, and 2 being inconveniently rudely absent. That's the end of that file. Does staff have any reminders, updates, announcements, or skits to perform?
No skits tonight, sorry. I'll prepare one for the next meeting. Yeah, something. A rendition of my early. just another point that came out of I had an update meeting yesterday. Yeah. Tuesday this week. And the board gave us one of the agenda items is to give feedback on land use files and staff reports, both between the board to us and us to the board as well, on feedback on their decisions. So part of that conversation with the board was regarding a zone change, and there was some findings, and this was started by staff and then continued with the zoning commission, where we included the proposed comprehensive plan designation in the proposed map in one of the files. The board said, well, that has no weight because it's not been ratified, it's not been approved. Please don't consider those in your decision-making process moving forward until that map gets adopted. So just a heads up, it's something we're going to change. So I would just ask the zoning commission, don't consider that map until it gets ratified. It is a fair request by the board.
Let's hope they remember that on this one.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So I don't know what so the comp plan map for this area, given it's currently R10, it will change to ag forest. So
Well,
proposed, yeah, as drafted. So we'll see how that goes. Anyways, so that's the one feedback I have for you from that meeting. We don't have, so we have one, I think we'll have 2 agenda items, I think, next month. And then I did not schedule any other additional meetings, so we're going to continue with 1 per month. Let's see. I think I mentioned this to you guys before, but there's a conflict in our code regarding the jurisdiction of the zoning commission and hearing examiner in relation to subdivision files. Did I talk to you guys about this already? I don't know if I did. So the chapter 2 gives us chapter 1 gives us our procedure, our jurisdiction. So what authority each governing body has to make decisions. But then chapter 6, when it specifically talks about subdivisions, it says that the zoning commission doesn't have the authority to make a decision, only a recommendation on preliminary plats for subdivision files. A subdivision is a division of land into more than 10 pieces. So you start with 1 or 2 and you divide it into 11 or more, right? Less than that is a short plat procedure, which is administrative. So staff makes those decisions, and then so you get to that higher level of review and more. A hearing body makes a decision when you get to 11 or more, given the potential impact of that many new lots. So, given the conflict between chapter 1, which says that the zoning commission can make decisions on those, and the hearing examiner can make decisions on those, and chapter 6, which says you can only make a recommendation, until we update chapter 6 and clarify that process, or update chapter 1 to clarify that as well, and we'll get them in more harmony. We're going to bring all subdivision files to the zoning commission for review and recommendation to the board. So similar to a zone change, you do a review of it, you make a recommendation, and then you send it to the board. I think the last time this process was followed, there was a recommendation for the Providence Road subdivision that was given to the zoning commission. So we have 2 gentlemen remember that one. Just know we'll have at least 1 subdivision file. I think it's going to be there in May or June. So we will likely see more of those. The county issued a moratorium about 3 weeks ago on a couple of land division types, which will result in more short plats and likely more subdivisions, at least for the next 6 months, until we modify those codes in chapter 6. That's my update for you guys, and that's just kind of be aware as those subdivisions come in as to why it's coming for this Friday. Questions on that?
No.
Okay. I don't have any other code amendments to discuss with you guys right now that would affect you. The planning commission's holding a hearing on Tuesday next week to consider a recommendation to the board on the updated land use component and land use map. So if you have nothing else to do on Tuesday night, please come and support. Staff report contains all 33 meetings they've held regarding this component and the update, and the 9 or 10 public open houses we did around the county. So we've exhausted a lot of public input, or we've gathered a lot of public input, a lot of deliberation on this file, and this update to the comp plan. So it is the capstone, if you will, to the whole update. So this is kind of a light at the end of the tunnel moment on Tuesday, and then the board will take it up next month. So hopefully they'll adopt and we close the book, the chapter. That is all I have.
Well, time is 6:20. This hearing is adjourned until May 3rd.